It's the Friday Cocktail, presented by Anna Glowinski.
A warning alert. If you can't take irony, tune out right now. I can't help you, because we are going to be protecting delicate sensibilities from harmful values of the past. You Can't Say That Anymore is a book that reveals the shocking danger around us in the books and films and TV shows that we used to cherish. From Bambi to Bleak House, to the lack of balcony safeguarding in Romeo and Juliet, to the troubling depiction of body dysmorphia in The Very Hungry Caterpillar, we are surrounded on all sides by danger, depravity, and profoundly harmful messaging. And these titles are taken to task and put on the naughty step in the book You Can't Say That Anymore by Bruno Vincent. And I'm delighted to say I have Bruno on the line with us right now. Good afternoon.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, really good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. It's good to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you because I love a bit of humour when you're not actually entirely sure where the humour is or isn't. And I feel like you've got that in spades in your book. I don't really know where to start. Maybe with the very first paragraph of promo, which is the Sound of Music insensitive to deaf people, or the Barber of Seville cruel to the follically challenged, or in this age of gender fluidity, is it the title Guys and Dolls acceptable, when perhaps it would be more tasteful to say people of unspecified gender? This is a big topic. What on earth inspired you to write this book?
Well, I mean, I've had a history of writing, funny books, or supposedly funny books. And I, as lots of people have in the last couple of years, started noticing with regularity that there were things that we were being warned about which seemed spurious or even almost deliberately silly, and that the actual original purpose of trigger warnings, which I'm not necessarily saying are definitely bad in and of themselves, is sort of creeping and becoming somehow made light-hearted or something like that. And we were surrounded by silly ones. There was Macbeth. People were warned that Macbeth contains blood and things like that. And there was in the same week, there was a play in London which was set around a wedding, and it was advertised with all the characters, quite understandably, on a wedding cake. And the poster was banned because it depicted sugary foods, which you're not allowed to advertise with.
Oh, my goodness.
And all of a sudden one feels that one has sort of stepped into a kind of parallel universe where formerly sensible things are being treated with an absurdist. And if you like making jokes, which I certainly do, you feel, well, wait a minute, I'm off to the races. And so I wondered if you could go back and find everything that we love and see if you could find, with, as you point out, a semi-serious, but obviously I'm trying to be funny, but in the tone of seriousness, try and find something that people might object to about it, whether it's Winnie the Pooh, who is a brown bear. Doesn't that give children false notions of the dangers of nature, and that shouldn't he be depicted as a real brown bear rampaging through the wood as a brown bear really would, and eating all of the other characters? So I had lots of fun. And as I say, I certainly hope I'm not going to actually offend anyone by poking fun at this sort of stuff. But very quickly, when you start writing pretend trigger warnings for things, reality catches up with you. So my editor said, "Oh, why don't you start doing more innocent things?" He enjoyed the funnier bits were if we were saying that, let's say, "Where's Wally" was completely inappropriate, or I analysed Beatrix Potter's Peter Rabbit and discovered that it's got the same narrative structure as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh,
And in that same week when I was writing this, I thought, well, wait a minute, what about the dictionary? How can we allow the dictionary still to exist when it defines all of these words which are considered inappropriate in modern society? And lo and behold, before I could even submit the book, the dictionary was banned in parts of Florida. So it was just really interesting to be trying, as so many people comment these days, when so many ridiculous things are happening in the world, if you're making fun of them, you've got to work hard to stay ahead of reality because so much crazy stuff is happening.
Wait a minute. This is perhaps terrible of me as somebody who works on the radio and deals with information, but that the dictionary was banned in Florida. How did I miss this, for a start?
Well,
And tell me a bit more about that, because what?
Well, to be honest with you, I think none of us should worry too much about things that happen in Florida. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff people seem to do things just for the sheer hell of it there. And I think it's like local lawmakers who want to have a bit of fun and get a name for themselves by doing something outrageous. And there are obviously laws that I think hopefully we would all consider to be, not very, very kind to people in that state. But yeah, I think some local, there's a law which is that you can't mention homosexuality in Florida, and because the dictionary defines it, therefore people banned. So there you go. So that's no laughing matter, but it sort of weirdly is so absurd that while I was trying to make fun of people having overreach, there's this people having real overreach.
Well, I mean, it is quite scary, actually, isn't it? And you say that you don't want to offend people, but have people been offended to your approach? And have you had to have some hard-hearted debates with people who are not happy about what you're writing?
No, I wouldn't mind having a bit of a debate. I think it would be. I personally would find it quite refreshing, because I think one of the things that this book is about is that people now are so afraid of offending people that they find themselves simply not saying things. I find this in around various different groups of people. I live in a seaside town, and I'm friends with groups of people of sort of all different ages in different environments. And I notice how differently they speak to each other, but they don't speak, the groups speak within themselves, but they don't communicate between each other. And I find myself sort of peering into these different groups who clearly are all decent, kind, nice people, but who speak in such radically different ways and weirdly enough can't communicate. So I'd relish having a sort of brisk debate. I mean,
maybe we can make this happen. Maybe we can find the most extreme woke person that, or if anybody out there would like to get involved with a debate because you strongly feel that wokeism is the way forward, maybe we can arrange that, because I would definitely tune in for that.
Well, I don't necessarily feel that, my personal opinion is that almost all people have almost all the same values, but there's a peculiarly narrow, like a narrow 1% in the middle, where people's speech is not connecting with each other, and people are taking offence when actually they might just actually laugh it off and communicate. I find people actually sort of, I don't know. I mean, look, I'm a white straight man, so there's lots of problems that I don't have that lots of people would say I can't see into, but I've noticed in my life through certain situations that taking offence at something is a way of prolonging combat, whereas actually laughing it off is a way of dissolving it. And anyway, so I'm talking very seriously about this silly book, aren't I?
Well, I think it has got a potentially serious message, surely.
I hope so. Well, may I read you something from Goldfinger, my important message about why Goldfinger is outdated and should be changed.
Do it.
Thank you. Goldfinger is depicted cheating at golf, which is an elitist sport most young people do not understand or have knowledge of. It is impossible for modern audiences to relate to a plump, all-powerful, orange-haired billionaire who cheats at golf while playing on a course that he himself owns. Suggest James Bond and Goldfinger go head-to-head in a skateboarding contest instead. So you can see it is certainly not a serious book, but one is poking fun, certainly at one of the things I think that we all feel a little bit is that those who decide what we should and shouldn't say are themselves somehow sort of anonymous. We sort of hear these rules filter down, and no one actually ever gives us the exact rules as And so one feels a little bit at a loss as to decide, well, who said I oughtn't to, it's about whether one is treated in good faith. But there you go. I'm being serious again. You've got to stop me.
Sorry, I don't know how not to. I'm a very serious person. But it sounds like there's a lot of levels as well. Go on and tell us what's wrong with the very hungry caterpillar, because I feel like you're about to break my heart if I look back on my childhood.
The very hungry caterpillar.
Yes, that was in your promo blurb. That you've got.
I'm going to spare your childhood memories because I don't think that made it into the final book. May I read to you from Oliver Twist instead?
Okay, I mean,
that's the thing. I wrote as many funny jokes as I possibly could, and then one writes the promo blurb at the end. So the hungry caterpillar is living to eat for another day. I think.
Oh, thank goodness! Thank goodness! I was so worried. But okay, well, tell me what's wrong with poor Oliver Twist. I mean, he had his troubles.
I mean, let's face it, it was no picnic. I mean, literally no picnic. Please, sir, I want some more stigmatizes those living in food poverty. The danger of encouraging enlarged portion sizes, which goes against acknowledged obesity guidelines. Suggest changing to, please, sir, is this one of my 5 a day? There you go. These are helpful suggestions to improve the history of literature and make it safe and more healthy for us.
Absolutely, with some nutritional advice in there as well. But obviously, it might have been a comment on history as it was, but Oliver Twist was a fictional story. The Bible, however, is also included in your critique. Fiction, non-fiction, it's hard to place that book. But yeah, why does that make it in there, and what have you got to say about it?
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, aside from how kind of munificent the Bible is in the number of famous tales that it contains, I actually found that when I was looking through the history of literature, books that I had read 20 years ago, I could remember the plot, but I couldn't remember chapter and verse. Whereas having spent an hour at church every week for 18 years or so, I could remember more of the Bible, and so therefore it made more of a juicy target. And there are lots of matter. I mean, the feeding of the 5,000. Really, there ought to be, allergen advice for multiple people and vegan options. Obviously, I mean that's simply a matter of course. And on the Last Supper, there's no scene depicted where they split the bill evenly and leave a 12.5% tip. And as for Jonah and the whale, is really. We haven't seen things from the whale's perspective as to whether the whale wanted to eat Jonah, but maybe it threw him up because of having some kind of intolerance. So all of these things must be looked at.
Absolutely. So we need to think of the children.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? To people in the old days, often it didn't occur to me really that I would outrage people for whom the Bible is. But maybe I should be worried. But I don't think so. I went to church or throughout my childhood, and my parents are religious, and they certainly have a good sense of humour. So I wasn't worried about that. But maybe I should be.
Well, it's brave of you, but maybe this is a topic that needs to be put under the magnifying glass anyway. And it sounds like you've approached it absolutely lightheartedly and with humour, which maybe I believe would have a stronger impact than a serious discussion about the way things are going politically correctly in what we feel that we can and can't say anymore. Anyway, we've got to wrap it up now. So I've been speaking to Bruno Vincent. He's the author of You Can't Say That Anymore. So if you'd like to get your hands on that book or pick it up for somebody for a Christmas present, it sounds absolutely perfect. You can check it out on the Talk Radio Europe bookshop, or of course, pop it into Google and I'm sure you'll find some of the best bookshops that will be selling it. Bruno, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. That was really enjoyable. Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Goodbye.
Cheers. Bye.